Yes, 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 yes. Welcome back to another episode of Go Long Live. I am your host, Barry Long II, not the first, not the third. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, today's California.com. We are also live on today's Canada.com. We had some technical issues going on a little bit earlier, so hopefully everybody is locked in and can come back with us and join us live. We got some exciting things to talk about today. Of course, we're going to talk about some stuff that's just breaking. There's some news that's just breaking. We heard that Doug Peterson is now the head football coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about some explosive allegations that are coming from Hugh Jackson, okay, that are very, very relevant to the story that Brian Flores has been in the news for recently. So we're going to talk about that. The Washington football team has officially chosen a name, and it's terrible, in my opinion. We'll get to that as well as some other Washington football team news. You got Dan Snyder, who has been involved with, the whole team, the whole organization has been involved with some sexual harassment allegations. We had 6 women that were in front of Congress today, and they testified, and it was not pretty. Also, we have some news about Jim Harbaugh around the league, but let me bring in, without any further ado, my co-host with the most, Mr. Rudy Ramon Reyes. Rudy, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. There's a lot of technical issues going on today, man, and outside of the NFL. I'm telling you, this is not for the faint-hearted.
Absolutely. But we're here, man. And as they say in show business, the show must go on. Now, we are going to be joined here shortly by a gentleman who is involved with the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Very excited to have him aboard. He is out here promoting the Firebirds, as well as a community outreach program that is teaching kids how to play hockey and basically just letting the desert know about hockey, because this is a place that hockey has not really been around. But we are definitely excited to have Coachella Valley Firebirds in this town, and we'll be talking to Bo Middleton here shortly. Without any further ado, let's bring him in. Bo Middleton, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here, guys.
Awesome.
Likewise. Man. Thanks a lot for coming in on short notice, Bo.
Absolutely. Glad to do it.
So real quick, just kind of tell us what kind of work that you guys are doing at the Coachella Valley Firebirds and the YMCA. What is the initiative that's bringing
Sure.
together?
So I just got hired on as a hockey instructor, so I'm working with the community outreach program. We are basically looking to grow hockey in the Coachella Valley. When we're starting with kids, right now we have clinics for ages 6 through 13, and it's just basic level stuff. I mean, how to hold the stick, how to dribble and pass, and just with balls on concrete and feet. And once the arena gets built and the ice gets put in, we're going to get them out on the ice. But right now we're just trying to get them involved in hockey, get to know what hockey is, and get them excited for the sport.
Absolutely. Now,
room to roam, they're right there. Literally, especially Coachella Valley. You got room for days in regards to getting these kids acclimated to what hockey is, what the idea of hockey is about, how it applies to them, and basically playing in a team environment that allows them to grow personally, as well as maybe build an aspiration to play with the Firebird organization as they get older.
Absolutely. Now, Bo, tell us kind of what when the Firebirds, we can expect the Firebirds to hit the ice exactly.
Well, we're shooting for next season, which is going to be October, November of this year.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite hockey team? Do you have a favorite hockey team, brother?
Oh, Ducks fan. I'm a Ducks fan.
Oh man,
Anaheim
I'm a Kings
Ducks.
fan. I'm a Kings fan.
Oh no.
Hey, it was rough last couple of years for all of us, but the Kings and the Ducks are finally playing some better hockey right now.
They're putting it together at the right time, so they've been looking pretty good this year.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Now, Bo, I just want to ask you real quick. Where can people find you, and if they really want to learn, these basic hockey instructions, where can people find you? And tell us a little bit about how much it costs and stuff like that.
Sure. So actually, right now we're having free clinics at Bagduma Park. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's new to me, but it's in Coachella, the city of Coachella. We've done a couple already so far. I know we have a couple more coming up, I believe, this month. So if you go to, I believe, Instagram at CV Street Hockey, That's CV for Coachella Valley Street Hockey. We'll be posting all the links up on there. All right.
Okay, absolutely, man. Thank you so much for joining us, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be
Appreciate
here.
it, and go Birds.
All day. Go Birds all day. I mean, I really like these logos. I really like the logos that they have. Just a really cool, special looking logo. This one is the secondary logo. I'll pull these up right here, right quick. So yeah, the Coachella Valley Firebirds are going to be joining us, man. Throughout the season, we're gonna get up with some current players. We're gonna get up with some of the executives, some a little bit of everybody. But we appreciate everybody for tuning in. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, live on today'sCalifornia.com, live on today'sCanada.com. Now we've got some breaking news.
We're talking breaking, and we're not talking about ice. We're not talking about ice yet, because ain't nothing got to ice yet. It's not about the ice.
We're not breaking ice,
baby. This is more about Doug Peterson.
Yes.
Now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're the last team in the NFL to actually look at a head coach. Why did it take them so long? There's a lot of obvious reasons. First name Urban, last name Meyer. I think that's one of the reasons why, or two of the reasons why. There was a lot of dismay and discord that Urban Meyer, I keep want to call him Oscar, because Baloney does have a first name, and I think he was busy. He was busy.
You mean Bourbon Meyer?
Inside the locker room, yeah, a little.
He was drunk.
He
was drunk in those pictures. Yeah, he was drunk in those pictures. I like to call him
probably so.
Bourbon
I wasn't
Meyer.
there. I didn't take him, but there's a lot of discord within the Jaguars organization. Khan certainly had seen enough of it. He had to make the executive decision to let Urban Meyer go softly, and of course sliced him up on his way out the door with a lot of disparaging types of information, from kicking kickers to just basically treat everybody very indifferently. He lost the locker room a long time ago, and I'm sure Trevor Lawrence has a lot to say, how he feels, what the discord was really about. And this is no place for a rookie quarterback, believe me, heading into an organization that otherwise was a dumpster fire and was not meant to be such when Urban Meyer taking control as the head coach. Unfortunately, I don't know if he's still owed money by Khan, or if that's something that he's just going to have to bite the bullet on and pay Urban and call it a day. I really don't know what the arbitration hearings would actually look like. But yeah, Doug Peterson, now the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he did that. He did it well in Philadelphia.
Yes, he did.
Had few quarterbacks in Nick Foles. And of course, when you look at the now Colts guy in Carson Wentz, former Eagle, certainly had the best of both worlds between a guy who helped get them there and Nick Foles, who helped finish the job off. And both got a ring. He's got a ring, and everybody's happy, at least for a moment, in Philadelphia. That is breaking news right now.
Absolutely. And as a head coach, he was 42-37-1. And in the postseason, like you just mentioned, he had some success, won a Super Bowl for that team, for that franchise. They were 4-2 in the playoffs. And I thought that he was kind of, unfairly let go quickly because basically it was the whole Carson Wentz situation. The organization was they were forced to choose between Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz. And I thought that they handled it poorly. I thought they made the wrong decision. As we saw, Carson Wentz and the Eagles did not work out. Carson Wentz ended up leaving town. Now they have a whole different coach, whole different regime. But I thought that Doug Peterson, at least by him winning that championship for that franchise, I figured that that would at least buy him, another couple of years. And I felt like it was just too soon for them to let him go. And he's a former quarterback, former offensive coordinator. But one thing about him is he does well with these young quarterbacks, like you were saying. And he was able to get the most out of Nick Foles. He was able to get the most out of Carson Wentz. And this is a big decision for them to make because, they don't want to make the wrong decision. They made the wrong decision time after time after time. They went with Gus Bradley, and then they had this guy named Urban Meyer just recently, and they've had other bad hires in the past. So they wanted to make sure that they get this right, get a guy that they're going to be able to have and be able to call the head coach for the next 10 to 12 years and have a good run with the team.
That's the idea anyway. I mean, conceptually, that's exactly what you want as an NFL organization, is to keep a guy around a very long time. Look at Mike Tomlin. Still there after all these years. Not quite an oldie, but certainly a goodie.
Yeah,
when you look at his record. Yeah, Bill Bill Belichick, I mean, you have a handful of coaches. Of course, there has been some turnover, and there's a lot of shifting going on in the NFL right now. And we're going to talk about Jim Caldwell's somewhat retractable statement, not to be
you mean Hugh
confused with a
Jackson? Hugh Jackson.
Hugh Jackson, who had that type of retractor within the parameters of, I still want a job in the NFL. I'm not willing to throw anybody under the bus. And Hugh Jackson went on the retractor machine earlier this morning on ESPN.
Yeah, absolutely, and we are definitely going to bring that up here shortly, because those are shocking allegations made by Brian Flores, and we thought that because of the class action suit that we were going to start hearing other former coaches trickling in and kind of chiming in on the situation and telling, basically co-signing what he said. And we did have a guy co-sign what he said. Now, the Jaguars' job was not one that Brian Flores was mentioned or rumored to be being interviewed for. The Jaguars, they had a very long, extensive search. They went after Byron Leftwich. A few other guys that were rumored to be headed there too as well. So do you think that the Jaguars got this right by picking Doug Peterson? Are you a fan of Doug Peterson joining them and being the mentor to Trevor Lawrence?
To be quite honest with you, you mentioned the Eagles, and you would have believed that Doug Peterson was a guy for the job there in Philadelphia for years to come. But the ownership, and this is something I may have mentioned on the show before, but ownership went out on a limb and acquired a mediator, because the owners in the NFL they do not necessarily understand the football side of things and how to pick players and how to look at players and the types of dynamics and monetary compensation for them and things of that nature. They have a general idea, but there's no dots connecting when it comes to ownership, when it comes to head coaches and front office staff, because all they look at the numbers. They don't necessarily look at the player side, the coach's side, what it takes to draft a player, the confines of which the player is actually training in, the OTAs. All of those dynamics play a role in regards to how long, if a player is picked properly, if scouted properly, it all starts with the scouting process, scouted properly to belong in that system. So the Philadelphia Eagles, as an organization, as an owner, went and acquired a mediator to help kind of bridge that gap between owner and head coach, which seemed to work out enough so they can win their first Super Bowl. So there are things that actually were work in progress. I don't think it was the right move to necessarily get rid of Doug Peterson. I think there was a personality conflict between him and Carson Wentz. I believe that Nick Foles was the fall guy, no pun intended, or the Foles guy.
I thought, I thought they should have kept Nick Foles.
I'll just say, you know what, and they actually should have. I think Nick Foles would have thrived in that system under Doug Peterson. However, that wasn't the case. Things fell apart. We've seen Nick Foles in Jacksonville. We've seen Carson Wentz go a separate way. Super Bowl champion in his own right, going over to Indianapolis. I think when you look at Carson Wentz, he's kind of a fool's gold kind of guy, meaning that he's going to throw some head scratching, attempts and make it into somebody else's hands, not name the wide receiver of his own team in the same uniform that he's wearing. So it makes you wonder where his head is at, literally. And I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. I think he showed enough to Indianapolis that he belongs there. And I think Peterson will do the same thing in Jacksonville to show ownership, to show the players that he's a player's coach, that he's a very smart coach. He's already won a title. Those guys have yet to win any at all. So it's certainly something to take into consideration, whether or not Doug Peterson is A, there for the long haul, B, and Khan seems like more of an amicable guy to say, you know what, we're here to support you as long as you're here to get us wins. And that is my whatever necessary means possible. So I think Doug Peterson, the right pick for the job. And of course, the head coaches don't grow off of trees, but what they do grow off of is lineage. And sometimes you get your
coaching
Belichick
trees.
lineage. Exactly. You get off, guys like Shanahan, and you find the Washington Redskins, formerly known as now the Washington Commandos. Commanders.
Oh my
So,
Did you just say Commando?
Commandos, so the
This is a
Commandos.
family show. We're
Danger,
live on
danger, Will Robinson,
CoachellaValley.com.
danger, danger. I mean, that's the kind of robot I think of.
Yeah, it's a terrible name.
But
We'll
to be honest with you, I think he's the right guy for the job in Jacksonville. But I guess we'll find out when the win column starts loading up, if it does.
Absolutely, and you know what? I think that I actually like this hire. I think that Khan, whatever his name is, Khan, he has done a lot of. He's been a con of an owner because he is not doing the job correctly as far as selecting the right people to run his franchise. I feel like this is finally the right decision he's made. He's made a good coaching hire, and I really do wish the best for Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson, he's a winner. He's a winner, and that's what they need. We are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are live on today'sCalifornia.com and today'sCanada.com. We are all over the Twitterverse, all over the Metaverse, all over the universe. He is Rudy Reyes. I am Barry Long II. Now, let's talk about the Washington Commandos or Commanders. Now, they came out today, and real quick, we got a comment. Maria Lascuna, she says, good to see you guys. Great to see you too, Maria. Thank you for always supporting the show. All right, so Washington football team has chosen a name. They are going to be called the Washington Commanders. And I kind of think that the name is, obviously, it's going to be, geared towards the military. You've got they had the Washington Admirals, that was rumored to be the name that was going to be leaked, and they ended up switching up on us and becoming the Commanders. Now, I really don't like the name Commanders. I just think it sounds cheap and corny. And Washington football team, they really haven't commanded a damn thing since 1991. So I just think that it's a terrible name. But here are the jerseys, man. First of all, I've never seen a mannequin in that position. I mean, he looks like he's doing the robot. But I do like the jersey. I kind of like the jersey. I like the way it says Commanders across the chest. What do you think about this name? Did Dan Snyder get it right?
I don't think Dan Snyder can get a whole lot right, especially when the left hand's up against the limo. I think of this as being probably a very PR-ish move. I think it was more on the surface as to the name of this, formerly known as AKA E.G. I think this is a substitute name for a team that deserves better ownership. The fans are great, but the ownership's absolutely horrendous. You can slap a less salt sticker on the can of Spam, but guess what? At the end of the day, it's still Spam. Okay? It's still Spam. I don't care how you slice it, dice it, or thrice it. It's still Spam. Okay? So when you look at the Commanders, they're a commando in waiting. Okay? They're one of those G.I. Joe figures that you got for your birthday that you received as a gift you really didn't want.
But I get it. Commander-in-Chief. You're in Washington, D.C. I get it.
They haven't commanded anything. You said it since 1991. They're not even in command of their own namesake. They're not in command of their own inner organizational collective correctness. They're a failure. They're a sham. It's still that way. It's not going to change. There was a report earlier, Barra, if you read this report, it was a pretty lengthy report by a former marketing consultant for the Washington football team. And unfortunately, it falls right next to Dan Snyder's hand on this young lady's thigh. She was strategically placed at a work dinner. This isn't going to dance at a nightclub. This is a work dinner, strategically placed so Dan Snyder could put his hand on her thigh. How disgraceful.
Middle of her thigh. Yeah.
Forget it. Thigh, inside, outside, it's still a thigh. It still doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
If it belonged to you, then you wouldn't be doing that. I mean, this is just despicable. I mean, and it goes on to say that the NFL is a part of this sweeping under the rug situation for Dan Snyder. As far as the organization is concerned, I mean, so the accusations are 13 years old. Does that mean your thigh gets any uglier after 13 years? Okay.
And he's a married man, by the way.
Maybe it does. Apparently, marriage means absolutely nothing to him. So again, this is old, but it's extremely relevant considering what else is going on in the NFL with this Brian Flores situation, with Hugh Jackson, and his backpedaling of what he may have thought was wrong, may have thought was right, but keeping his foot in the door while the other one's on the outside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like Dan Snyder should not be allowed to run a franchise anymore. I think that these allegations, especially the bombshell that dropped today, because we had 6 women testify before Congress saying that they felt like they were harassed every single day that they walked into work. I mean, they asked the ladies exactly how many days of sexual harassment did you receive? And one lady responded, think about all the days that I worked in my entire tenure there at Washington. It was that many days. It's insane that the work environment was allowed to thrive like that. And it wasn't just Dan Snyder. It was other guys in the organization. And Dan Snyder came out today and actually said, he thanked the women for coming out, and talking about the sexual harassment, although he is one guy that has been accused as well. So he's really trying to distance himself from these allegations. But yeah, the lady that said that he had his hand on the middle of her thigh. And then another lady that said that he was trying to force her into his limousine after her work.
Same lady.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then his lawyer just so happened to be there that same night and told him, man, this is a bad idea. So I mean, a lot of times guys who are in positions of power, who are rich, who have a lot of money, they sometimes feel like they're invincible and they can get away with anything. And Dan Snyder seems to be that kind of guy. He did when he first refused to change the name from the Redskins to the Washington football team. He was very arrogant about not changing the name. I mean, he was talking against Native American tribes and saying, I'll never change the name. He's just made some bad decisions as far as hires that he's had, coaches, as well as front office that now we see. So Dan Snyder has been, one of the worst owners in the NFL for a long time, probably the worst owner in the NFL. And we're not just talking about what's going on the field. We're talking about everything, running the entire operation. And I feel like after these explosive allegations have come out, I think that the NFL seriously needs to think about getting this guy out of there and pulling a Donald Sterling from the NBA. They really got rid of Donald Sterling after he came out, with the racist comments or whatever. And I think that NFL needs to do the same. What do you think?
Well, Chauncey Billups went on record today stating that the NFL is leaps and bounds behind where the NBA is in regards to equality across the board, whether you're talking about women, men, women in coaching positions. This is an ongoing slump. And the NFL is the black eye surrounding it. It went from having one eye black to both eyes black because right now this is a 1-2 punch, one from Brian Flores and the other one from Tiffany Johnston, who is a whistleblower on Dan Snyder's behalf to basically blow him out of the water. And I think Chauncey's right. I think Chauncey Billups is certainly very accurate in regards to his commentary. And make no mistake about it, this is a systemic problem. I mean, we've mentioned systemic before, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. It shouldn't be taken anywhere, shape, or form, but to suggest that, as you pointed out, Barry, ownership needs to think twice. And the NFL really needs to think a third time as to whether or not Dan Snyder is the right guy to lead a club with their shield on it, with their logo on not only their uniforms, but their helmets and every other piece of paraphernalia that the NFL peddles out to anybody willing to buy it. And I know this is another marketing scheme by the now Washington Commandos, whatever you want to call them. It's just, again, it's that can of spam again. Even though it's less salt, it's still spam. But, at the end of the day, when you look at the other aspect to this is that the Washington cheerleaders were also by the photographer asked to take lewd and lascivious videos and photos.
Wow.
Of these young ladies. Now, I reached out to one of them quite some time ago when this story originally broke, probably 2 years ago, at least at this juncture.
Okay.
She failed to respond to it, which is perfectly fine. She doesn't have to respond to inquiries, but the silence indicates.
Was it a DM? Was it a DM?
Else. Yes, it was a DM.
Her DMs are full.
To a then current cheerleader.
Yeah.
For the Washington football team / Redskins. And she didn't have to respond. But you know what? Sometimes silence speaks all by itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's terrible, man, because Because cheerleaders, man, that is. You're talking about the photographer, so you're talking about somebody from the top all the way down to the bottom, the lowest level employee in the front office, or that are employed by Washington. So this is just a systemic problem with this team, and you can't help but think that maybe other teams are going through the same thing. We heard about the Carolina Panthers a few years ago. The same kind of allegations were made against that front office and that ownership group, and they were ultimately forced to sell. So maybe we'll end up seeing Dan Snyder sell his team. But Dan Snyder has a net worth of $4 billion. Okay. And it's hard to dethrone somebody like that. But if anybody can do it, it will be all the NFL owners. And I think that they should make swift and corrective action right now. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, live on today'scalifornia.com. He is Rudy Reyes. I am Barry Long II. We are talking about some NFL right now. And now we had some crazier allegations that came out after we saw Brian Flores, who is suing the NFL, the Broncos, the Giants, and the Dolphins for racial discrimination and unfair hiring practices. Now we've seen Hugh Jackson, has come out and kind of basically co-signed what Brian Flores said, which was that he was offered $100,000 a game from Stephen Ross, the Miami Dolphins owner, to lose games in order for them to get a better draft position. Now, Hugh Jackson basically came out and said, that's a good number. Let me see if I can pull up his tweet that we had. Somebody came out and said Jimmy Haslam wasn't offering $100K per loss, or Hugh would be on the Forbes list, because Hugh was terrible as far as the head coaching is concerned. I believe his record was like 1-31 the first 2 years. He came out and he recently replied, said, well, Jimmy Haslam was happy while we kept losing. Trust me, it was a good number. Okay. So he basically is saying that, that what Brian Flores was saying was true. And is he implying, Rudy, that he was paid? Because he says that he was paid more money for losses than he was for wins. What are your thoughts on Hugh Jackson's claims?
Hugh Jackson's a backpedaler. Straight up.
He did backpedal. He backpedaled when he was being interviewed on.
He retracted like a jack on a 75 Lincoln Continental, okay? He retracted badly, and it doesn't look very good for him, because when he says, trust me, it was a good number, was that supposed to be a joke? Was that a ha-ha funny moment for Hugh Jackson? He, like I said, his 1 foot inside of the league saying, I'm ready to play. I want to be a coach in the NFL. The other foot outside saying, man, forget this nonsense. I can't believe that it would pay me this much money to be this crooked. No. If he's accepting of that money, he's as guilty as a person giving it. End of story. And for him to retract like that just means that he's weaker than I thought. He's weaker than the record he had as the Cleveland Browns head coach. Okay? Yeah. Weaker than the front office moves that were made to draft him the players that he needed so he can, AKA, contend with a title. Now, we're both AFC North guys, and the Browns have always stunk as long as I've known it. This stinks even worse. This stinks to high heaven when you're talking about Hugh Jackson, when you talk about how the organization in of itself, including ownership, would even think about, remotely consider asking a head coach to tank in the NFL. Are you joking? This is not a joke, Hugh Jackson. This is not a joke, Brian Flores. But I think Brian Flores knows more about this not being a joke than any other NFL coach, current or past. I mean, you want to go back to the 1950s? Okay, fine. Did Hugh Jackson expect a huge payday out of this? Did he believe that he wouldn't be noticed because he posted on social media? Anybody who's caught up with this and knows exactly what the situation is, and we're live on Go Long Live, seen on the Coachella Valley, as well as Go Canada. I don't have a Canadian flag, otherwise I'd be right about now. I don't have one, eh? But at the end of the day, not to rhyme with A, but you look at both organizations and you think to yourself, how bad could these guys be? No player in the NFL would ever think about tanking. Not one. There's not one player in here that say, you know what, I think I would just end up taking the L because I don't want to get the W. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? This isn't even legitimate. Yeah. And I wouldn't even think of any NFL player, as many as I've spoken to, as many as I've interviewed, as many as I've talked to over the years, there's not one of them that has ever said, I think I'll just take the L and forget it.
Yeah.
What? You're not in this league to take an L. You're in it to get the dub. Are you joking? Look at the NBA. Look at the NHL. Look at soccer. Look at hockey. None of these guys are going to tank because they want to put their coach in a better position to draft a better player. Are you kidding me? They could care less what
Yeah.
person they get in the draft. These guys want to win and win now.
I think that you have a great point when it comes to the coaches and the players aspect, because the coaches and players are the ones that really go out there and put it all on the line. The front office is kind of like running a franchise on Madden. All right, you're just trying to get you're just kind of trying to play Geppetto and pull all the strings. But at the end of the day, the guys that are out there sacrificing their bodies are not going to tank any game. And the only way that we've been able to see management really kind of force the team to lose is by saying, hey, you must sit all the starters for the last game, or they make personnel moves that are questionable, but they're ultimately trying to lose games. So rather than asking the front office, or rather than asking the head coach and the players to lose a game on purpose, which should be illegal in my opinion, I think that they should be brought up on charges if they're out there, because there's so much money connected to these games. But instead of the front office asking the head coach, hey, go out there and lose this game, go out there and call bad plays, or asking the players, hey, go out there and have a poor performance, what they do a lot of times is make these head-scratching, questionable decisions, and they kind of force their team to lose because of the bad players that they pick. So, I feel like what Hugh Jackson claims, I feel like he is backpedaling a lot. He was interviewed on ESPN by L. Duncan, and he took back a lot what he had to say. And this guy I thought was going to be the first of many dominoes to fall when it comes to Brian Flores' allegations. Now, Brian Flores has two different separate claims. Basically, one saying that there's a racial discrimination going on with the hiring practice, and then the other one is about the integrity of football coaches and losing games on purpose. So, whether or not he has anybody to come out and support him, I thought Hugh Jackson would be the second one on the side of the integrity, but Hugh Jackson seems to not really be as serious and as down and dedicated to the cause as Brian Flores is. So, these are strong allegations. I think that there's going to be more coaches that come out and make claims like this. So you'll have to go back and look at all the teams that were 0-16 or 1-15 and go back and kind of look and see, some of those games and investigate. But ultimately, I think that Hugh Jackson is going to be one of the only coaches to come out and make this claim.
Well, I look at Hugh Jackson and think to myself, how less credible does he look now? He looked somewhat credible during the initial conversation, during his initial topic, when he was discussing how much money ownership was going to give him. He didn't actually put a dollar value on that, and because he didn't feel credible enough to give that dollar value, or was his statement just a sham? You heard Brian Flores make that kind of commentary, stating that the whole interview process was just a sham, and that John Elway himself, who was part of the interview process in 2019, in relation to him looking disheveled, he looked disheveled because he wasn't on an airplane no more than 2 hours worth of sleep on it, so that we can interview Brian Flores for 9 hours. These are grueling, long-term, lengthy conversations because you're investing your franchise with a guy who has the accolades, who has the tenacity, who's already made, and you hear this sloppy adage time and time again, you're going to make winners out of men, right? So you're going to bring these men together to give them the winning mentality, the winning ways, the winning edge. Well, the only edge that Flores is giving any part of the credible components is basically stating that these are all shams. And I guarantee you, not every one of them were shams. Perhaps in some capacity within those conversations he had with the Miami Dolphins, with the New York Giants, with the Denver Broncos, maybe in those processes, in those conversations, he could have felt a little misled, maybe a little taken back in regards to some of the questions that they were asking him, but not out of line to a point where he feels as though, and it could be him just feeling not so dandy about the hiring process because he didn't get the jobs that he was looking for, even though he's still in the running for two different positions in the NFL, head coach for the Houston Texans, and one for another team. So it's not as if he's out of the running for any of these teams, and whether or not anybody else is going to come out of the shadows to bat for Brian Flores remains to be seen. And who's going to do that? Anybody else that may have been not given a fair shake? I mean, you look at his face right there. He does not look very happy.
No, he doesn't.
It could have been a losing game, right? Because losing causes emotions to surface that we've seen with guys like Cam Newton, right? He loses the NFC Championship game.
and sulks and pouts at the podium.
Super salty, spreading that salt like he had snails. Like he had escargot on the table he was sitting at right there.
Like it
right?
was snowing on the sidewalk. He's putting that salt
Yeah,
up.
exactly. It's like, man, I want to be able to drive through this stuff, but I can't. I need a little salt. So, you know, a lot more questions than answers at this point. The NFL is already investigating. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see them already taking what Brian Flores is stating and dissecting it word for word, verb for verb, noun for noun.
Now think about this now, Rudy, because the Rooney Rule has been around forever, but now they've modified the Rooney Rule to where you have to interview two black candidates
Correct.
or minority candidates outside of your organization,
Right.
and that goes the same thing goes for the front office. But yeah, Brian Flores is saying, you know, not only was he the Rooney Rule scam and the Rooney Rule kind of scapegoat, but other guys have been. Now, do you think that other guys are going to come out like Deuce Staley? You know, guys that you know, when you see that clicker go across the bottom of the screen and it says, you know, this random guy that is not even head coach material has been interviewed by the Broncos. You're like, man, there's no way that guy's getting the job. That is obviously a Rooney Rule bait right there. That's a guy that's a Rooney Rule scapegoat. Do you think that you're going to see other guys kind of join in on this racial discrimination class action lawsuit?
You know, there probably is some. Whether or not they're going to actually get up and say anything remains to be seen. Maybe some past coaches, maybe guys like Dennis Green, former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Perhaps he
passed away, didn't
he? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. You can't reach out to him.
That's too soon.
Unfortunately, he's not available. He's not available, and neither is Junior Seau. Okay?
Yeah. Oh,
so
God.
whatever reporter wanted to ask Junior
Rest in
Seau
peace.
why he wasn't. Junior Seau, God rest his soul, he's not here with us. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe here in some sense, but not here in the physical sense. So with that being said, I believe there are some guys that would be open to having the conversation, but who are they? What ranks are they? What clout do they have? Are they being taken serious? Do they have credibility? Where do they coach at? What was their record? What are their conversations that they had in the locker room with all these other guys, with head coaches, with other coaches, position coaches, quarterbacks, linemen, defensemen?
And if they come out, they're risking career suicide like Brian Flores is doing right now, too. The second guy that comes out is probably not going to get hired by the NFL again either. And,
no, not at all. Not at all. And you know what, to be honest with you, if he is on the understanding that him and the statements, what he's going to say, how he's going to say it, the way that he phrases it needs to be a PR check first. Check yourself at the door before you wreck yourself at the podium. Okay. And that's really what it boils down to.
I like
Seriously.
that.
Because that's just the way it is. We are who we say we are. And unless they're going to speak the truth about it, the truth or nothing but the truth, so help you God, that's exactly what's going to come down to is their credibility. Now, I can't think of any coaches off the top of my head.
Me either.
But to be quite honest with you, I can see some current. Wait, hold on. There's only one black coach in the NFL, and that's Mike Tomlin. Whether or not Mike Tomlin gets involved in this process or not is doubtful. I know that there have been, you were talking about the Rooney Rule earlier, I know there has been some type of expansive efforts to get more women involved in the coaching processes. They hold female and women's clinics in regards to what it's going to take to get to the next level. Where do they need to brush up on? They have classes about this. So there's a lot of treadway being made for women in the NFL, but that doesn't speak to where the men actually lay in this entire process. Are they still at risk of not getting the job being African American? We don't know. If Brian Flores and what he's saying is true and accurate, and he's sworn before, an oath before Congress and whatnot, which is what Dan Snyder should have done. Whether or not he has his fingers crossed behind his back is another story. But when you look at what's going to come out, this could go one of two ways. It could go bad for the NFL or extremely bad for Brian Flores. And whether or not his allegations are hold any merit? Are they accurate? Is it something he's going to be able to come back from? And if he does an NFL team, do the Texans still want him as their head coach? That's the bigger question.
That is a big question, and we might see somebody, step out on faith and pick him up as a head coach. Just depending on the ownership group, but I really doubt it. I really honestly do doubt it. And you wish the best for Brian Flores.
Ownership plays a huge role in where they get these coaches. It takes great pride as an organization, as a franchise owner, which are majority white, if not all white, to say, you know what, we need to pull in the right guys, regardless of color, regardless of skin, creed, sexuality, whatnot. If they don't do that, they fail to see that this is just no longer the good old boys club, that you don't deserve to get in just because you're of the same race. Could there be backdoor dealings in NFL franchises? Absolutely. And if anybody thinks otherwise, then they need to have themselves checked for honesty-itis 101. Because if they can't be honest with themselves, they're not going to be honest with anybody else they talk to about the situation. I'm heated up about it because I'm of a split class. You're a split class. And if I was being considered for an NFL position anywhere, now, mind you, I still get letters from the NFL saying, thanks for applying, but we appreciate your time, but you're not under consideration, but. So you get a lot of that. And that's perfectly okay. And believe me, I've been told no more than probably Mother Teresa, but at the same token, you look at the situation where these guys either deserve to be put in the positions that they are, but the only way that they can be is if ownership changes in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. And racism is going to be one of those hard things to prove. I mean, it's going to have to be so much circumstantial evidence. Screenshots.
The league is 85% black. Yeah. The league is 85% black in players, position coaches, running back coaches. Take your pick. You're not going to find a black NFL owner. You won't, because they don't exist. And that's part of the problem. Is ownership needs to change, because if you don't change ownership, there's not going to be any change, and you're not going to see anybody propagating for that change.
Now let's talk about the Brian Flores aspect of it. Let's talk about Tua Tagovailoa, because that was his quarterback, and Brian Flores, is no longer the coach of the Miami Dolphins. And I think that Tua Tagovailoa, he was the guy that they went out and picked after those tanking game allegations. So they theoretically he's there as a result of these bribery that Stephen Ross had. Now, do you think that with a new regime that will be eventually introduced in Miami, a new head coach, do you think that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be their starter moving forward?
He could ultimately be the casualty, to be quite honest with you. There are a lot of things I like about Tua, his throwing motion, not so much, but he does have a big arm. There have been times throughout the season where I've seen him make some pretty dynamic throws. He's a solid runner. I like his awareness outside of the pocket. There's a lot of great things to like about Tua. The problem is that he was not the pick for Brian Flores. He was a pick for Stephen Ross, but not the pick for Brian Flores. And when that happens, predominantly ownership, going back to ownership again, ownership will find a way to get a guy that they had all this faith and hope and belief in, knowing he could be the guy. They come out wearing the jersey. They're happy. They got their fingers up. He's not a Johnny Manziel where he's going to take his fingers and do this number in the air. No, he's not that kind of guy. He's not flashy like that. So could he be the target? Could he be the guy on the other end, the losing end of the battle? Teams make bad picks all the time, but could he be that guy? I believe he can be. And unfortunately, his career could be in jeopardy because of it. Now, a lot of rumors prior to the season end for the Miami Dolphins and any other team in the NFL that were sitting on a couch in Cancun watching the playoffs unfold. Now they were eliminated from any type of NFL playoff action. Conversations around him being traded for in the offseason for another team. Could I see that happening? Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Me too. And I think it'll be a shame if they do, because the Miami Dolphins have been looking for a quarterback since Dan Marino. And they've been eluded from a title for a long time, even before Dan Marino. So this is just one of those things where they're going to really have to make a educated decision whether or not they want to get rid of this kid, because when he was out this is when they were losing, and they had Jacoby Brissett behind under center, and then Tua gets in, and then they start putting these wins together, and I believe that Tua had a big part to deal with that 7-8 game winning streak that they went on, winning 7 of their last 8. So I feel like Tua can be the guy. He's played in high pressure moments. He's succeeded in high pressure moments. National championship. He's a guy that can definitely get the job done. But we're going to see. Whoever their next head coach is going to be, I think it's to be somebody who believes in Tua, if they really want to keep Tua around. And I think that they should. So I could see him getting rid of him, but I think that would be a travesty.
Well, the travesty is paying Brian Flores $100,000 per tanking of every game. That right there is the most preposterous component of it all, because now you're taking a guy who is trying to prosper into a Tagovailoa to be the guy you drafted under center, to be that guy carrying this unnecessary weight around his neck, saying, well, if I don't, win, I could be on the chopping block. To be quite honest with you, even some other quarterbacks in the NFL that still end up winning and winning out their season are still on the chopping block. Look how far Jimmy Garoppolo went to the NFC Championship game. One error, one pure unadulterated error of throwing the ball into anybody else's hands other than the ones wearing gold and red to basically seal the deal. Unfortunately, could still be the end for Tua. And where he goes, well, where he stops, nobody knows, because this is an ongoing quarterback carousel, especially in the National Football League.
Absolutely. And you're right about Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was literally one throw from winning the Super Bowl a few years ago against the Chiefs. He overthrew, I believe it was Debo Mitchell or Debo Samuel or Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders. It was one of those guys. He overthrew him, and they could have won the Super Bowl if he completes that pass. And then he gets to the NFC Championship, and he's only costing them $25 million next year, and he's expendable. So this
He's
is
beyond expendable at this point.
I mean, we got guys getting paid $40 million. Can you believe that? I mean, that's a lot of money to be $40 million a year.
That's obscene amount of money. But back to the Dolphins, when you look at Miami, they're still the last team in the NFL to select a head coach. Doesn't surprise me. Stephen Ross needs to have that team, that franchise, basically reviewed by the NFL as well. If you're talking about the Washington football team, put them in the same exact category, especially if the allegations are true and accurate of Stephen Ross paying him $100,000 per loss, just as fluff money, essentially, so that way they can get a better draft pick. That better draft pick would have been another quarterback, because we know that Tua may not have been the right color in Miami. Unless he was colored gray, like Clammy Sosa, he would find himself being the quarterback next year. But we're going to find out exactly what happened. Push, I'll put that out there, did you? You got that in the arsenal.
Yeah, just ready. It's ready, bro. It's ready.
The clammy arsenal, moment's notice, and it's on.
Now let's talk about. Now you said that Miami is the last ones to pick a head coach, and they are. They're just dragging their feet in the mud with this one. Now Jim Harbaugh was linked to. I think that he was throwing his own name in the hat. I think these rumors came from the Jim Harbaugh camp. He was linked to the Vikings job just most recently. He's been linked to the Miami Dolphins job. He's been linked to other jobs that are open right now. But we've heard per sources that Jim Harbaugh will stay at Michigan. Now, Jim Harbaugh has been itching to get back to the NFL ever since he got let go from the San Francisco Giants or San Francisco 49ers. And he had some success. He made it to a Super Bowl. He had success in the college ranks before he got to the NFL up at Stanford with Andrew Luck and company. He's had a lot of success at Michigan recently. Now, he did not beat Ohio State for so many years, the first 5 years, but he finally got that monkey off his back, finally got them into contention for the playoff. They weren't able to win it.
Coach of the year.
He won Coach of the Year. So do you think that Jim Harbaugh is a good fit for any of these head coaching vacancies in the NFL, or do you think that he made the best decision by deciding to stay at Michigan?
I'll be honest with you. You were right that the reports came from Jim Harbaugh's camp alone. He had to ask for permission, because this isn't just something that's automatically given to a coach in the college ranks in order to interview for an NFL head coaching position. So he had sent a message to the Michigan athletic department and the athletic director asking for permission to go interview for this job, and of course had to make the inquiry with the Minnesota Vikings and determine whether or not Mensah would be the guy to say, yay, Jim, you're in, or no, Jim, you're not. I don't think there was any mutual agreements established. I don't believe Jim Harbaugh was the answer in Minnesota. To be quite honest with you, he would have had a better chance in the humid weather down in Miami, but there was no conversation in regards to Jim Harbaugh and the Miami Dolphins camp as far as I know. And clearly no chance in freezing cold temperatures. Wait, so, well, no, he didn't have a chance. He didn't have a chance in HE double hockey sticks to be on the head coaching vacancy for the Minnesota Vikings. So no, it was not a good fit. I didn't see it as a good fit. So that's a big fat no.
Yeah, and he had success with the running quarterback, with the RPO with Colin Kaepernick, but he also had success with Alex Smith. And as long as he has a good running game like he's got in Michigan right now, I think that he would have success in the NFL again. And I was kind of disappointed that he's not being chosen for the Minnesota Vikings job because I think he's good for the league. His passion, just the way he's so demonstrative on the sidelines.
He's a rah-rah coach. He's a rah-rah coach. He reminds me of a rah-rah coach. He reminds me of Rex Ryan 2.0. I mean, yes. I'm just saying minus the foot fetish, but I look at Jim Harbaugh. Maybe Jim has a hat fetish. I don't know. But in either case,
khakis. He's a khakis fetish.
He's a khakis guy. Maybe he has some investment with a Dickies or something. I don't know. Maybe some type of coercion there. I don't know. But to be honest with you, I just don't think it was a great move for the Vikings. I don't think it's a good move for Jim Harbaugh, and because he's a rah-rah coach, because the college landscape is not for everybody. Just like the NFL landscape is not for everybody. It's not for the head coaches. It's not for rabid fans. In the NFL want to be wishy-washy because you like the color of their uniforms. If you're a fan in the NFL, it's a whole different animal than being a fan of college football, because in college football, there's a lot more lack of parity in regards to, is it 3-4? Is it 4-3? Are they going to play man? Are they playing dime? Are they playing nickel with a free safety in the slot? Offensively, are they doing RPOs? This is a fast-paced offense. Do snaps come out, to hand to receiver at like 3.2 seconds. I mean, is a running back going to get that yards per carry? Is he going to be used in the outfield? Maybe as a slant receiver. There's so many things to like about the NFL landscape that does not exist in the NCAA landscape. So fans beware.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that we could see him being there for a long time in Michigan. I feel like that's probably the good fit for him. You're right. I mean, he's a rah-rah. Maybe I'm just biased because John Harbaugh, his brother, is the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, and
you probably love that chin of Jim Harbaugh too, don't you?
I love me some Jack Harbaugh too. Their dad, man. It's an awesome family, man, and I'm just but I do root for Jim Harbaugh, and I think that he'll have success at Michigan if he stays. I mean, hell, Jim Harbaugh walks into your living room and asks you to let your son go to Michigan, and he's got connections to the NFL, and he's good for developing a guy like a quarterback. So if your kid's a quarterback and you're thinking about, and you're being recruited by Michigan, I feel like he is the best kind of bargaining chip. So, I feel like this is a good fit for him, but I would definitely like to see him in the NFL if he ever gets another chance.
Sure.
Andrea
Absolutely.
Campos Adams says she put her hands up. She's praising God, and she gave us a thumbs up. So shout out to her.
Appreciate the thumbs up versus
we
thumbs
got the Super Bowl coming up. Yes, we do. What if they gave us this?
Yeah,
so
that would not be good. I don't like those.
Me neither. We got the meme of the day coming up here shortly, so make sure you guys tune in. We have moved to an hour long episodes a day. So make sure you just keep rocking with us. We appreciate all the love that we've been getting, all the comments. Now, we got the Super Bowl coming up. We're going to break the Super Bowl down more, especially next week while we're out there. But we'll break down some more tomorrow. But I just want your initial thoughts on this game that we've got coming up between Cincinnati and Los Angeles.
I think this is going to be the game.
Who's your initial pick? Your initial pick.
My initial pick, I've been against the Bengals the entire season. Obviously, they're going to play my Steelers twice a year, like they do the Ravens, twice a year, and it's not a real big, they've never been a big deal. They've never been a big deal. They really haven't. I think the Browns have gotten a lot more accolades because of the way that they draft and the players they draft, and Baker Mayfield, but he had torn labrum, so that kind of took them out of contention. But I guess I've been sleeping this whole time on the Cincinnati Bengals. But you know what? You keep poking the bear, and the bear's going to show up. So my initial hip check, as you like to call it, pick is the bear has awoken.
Are you going to pick the Bengals?
I'm going to pick the Bengals in an upset over the Rams. This is not a home game for the Rams, by the by. The Rams are the visitors. The Bengals are at home, and they'll be wearing black for whatever that means.
But that means that they're going to a funeral.
they're either going to the funeral of the Rams, or they're attending their own funeral. Maybe they could be late for their own funeral. I don't know. But I know this: the Bengals are certainly in contention. They're not here because they're soft. They're not here because they don't have a good defense. They're not here because they have no offensive fluidity. They're not here for any of the wrong reasons. They're here for the right reasons, and that reason is to win. And I think the Bengals end up getting their dub.
And we've seen a lot of teams that are, hot out of the gate, hot all season long, hot throughout the playoffs, and then they finally get to the big game. They're a young team, and when they are mobbed, they choke. They're mobbed by media. There's Magic Johnson is right there. I mean, this is an atmosphere that is not for the weak of heart. So when you look at some of these guys, on the Bengals, I feel like a lot of people were saying it's too soon for them to have this much success. Joe Burrow is basically his first full year because of the injury last year. Jamar Chase is a rookie. Joe Mixon's never been here. Zach Taylor is a third-year head coach. I felt like they were successful too early, and I was like, man, this is not going to be a dynasty whatsoever. But you're right. Week after week after week, Joe Burrow continues to convince us. And he does it so cool, smoking a cigar after a win. So I feel like I'm happy for the Bengals, and I understand that the Bengals are going to be here for a long time to come. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen having this long-term rivalry. But I mean, you're forgetting Joe Burrow in that mix. So Joe Burrow is going to be around for a while too. So I feel like the Bengals have arrived, and but I'm going with the star power. I'm going with the Rams. I'm going with Odell Beckham Jr., a guy who's been in the spotlight most of his career, although he's never been to Super Bowl media week. I'm going with Matthew Stafford, the guy who's been in the league for a long time, just been here, done that, and he's got much more experience than Joe Burrow. I'm going with Sean McVay, who's been to the Super Bowl and lost the Super Bowl and knows what it takes to win that Super Bowl. Over Zach Taylor and his lack of experience. So I'm picking the Rams. I think that it's going to be a close game. I think the Rams will get ahead early, and the Bengals will start to make some movements, and they'll start chipping away at that lead. But I think ultimately Matt Stafford gets it done.
Matt Stafford has been a guy, and I have to give kudos to the Rams. Now, don't forget, LA is a very fickle market when it comes to football. It started with the Raiders, and it went to the Rams, and the Raiders left, and then the Rams stayed, and they eventually left. So LA's been in kind of a paradox in regards to, do they root for a team? Do they not root for a team? The only other teams that have been here that have been here since inception are two NBA teams, not two NFL teams. The Lakers, hashtag Lake Show, and the hashtag Clippers, and a lot to be Clippers,
Lob City,
whatever you want to call them, Lob City, take your pick. But there's a lot of things to like about Los Angeles now having a football team that people can actually root for. But have you seen some of the prices of these seats? Like literally, $3,800, $7,200. $5,000, I think, is the lowest one. And these numbers are designed for fans that actually have the money to get in to watch this one-of-a-kind event, and that is the Super Bowl. And it's just amazing how these numbers are so astronomically high. But when you want to see your Odell Beckham Jr., when you want to see the glimpses of Magic Johnson sitting somewhere in the arena, or you want to see maybe
LeBron James.
take your MJ is sitting there.
Oh
Maybe you
man.
see, Jack Nicholson, the Jackster, sitting somewhere in the theater. You're going to see a lot of these guys not in the Super Bowl, but you're going to see their photos, their video waving hi. We're here because we can afford to be here, and everybody
Yeah.
else is not, or either watching at home.
Yeah.
But the Rams, Odell Beckham Jr., a story for him, to say the very least, having the star power, but not really involved with other stars to help get him to this point, not only from a wide receiving core, but Matthew Stafford, who's been throwing the ball, who, again, as I mentioned earlier on this show 5 days ago, and I mentioned this, I'm going to continue mentioning because I want him to prove me wrong. He doesn't owe me a thing. Okay, let me just score that up right now. He doesn't owe me anything. He owes it more to himself. He owes it to his family. He owes it to the people in LA. And you know who he needs to really stick it to? He needs to stick it to the naysayers, the ones that said you will never get out of Detroit. You will never have an opportunity to be in a Super Bowl. But guess where he's at right now? Preparing for a Super Bowl. Mike McVay losing his Super Bowl. And I can feel the steam rising in his head. And when he gets hot, his hair turns into flames. I mean, that's how much steam is coming out of that guy. I'm just saying.
that red hair.
That red hair, he is on fire. So I think the Rams will come out of the gate. They'll be shooting and firing on all cylinders. They'll get the lead early, but I think they'll end up losing it late. And we've seen them do this before. This isn't the same story. Maybe the same end, but it hasn't been the same story. Well, we'll see the Rams end up losing this off of McPherson's toe for a field goal to win it.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. McPherson hasn't lost. He hasn't missed one kick yet in these playoffs. So this guy is on fire too. I could easily see that being the outcome as well. But we'll see. So for our initial picks, I'm Rams, you're Bengals. That's perfect. All right, let me show you this meme of the day, man. This meme of the day is good. Actually, we got two memes of the day, one sports related and one not sports related. But Tom Brady has retired. So this is Tom Brady breaking his 22-year diet. I love this, bro. I love that, bro. Imagine Tom Brady looking like that.
He reminds me of an older, shorter-haired Magnum PI, Tom Selleck.
Did you say Tom Selleck? Oh my goodness! I thought that was great. And then the non-sports related one, we've got of course you got Joe Rogan, who's pissed people off, and people are dropping from Spotify. There are artists taking their music off from Spotify. Milli Vanilli, they announced that they are pulling someone else's music from Spotify. Oh my goodness. The internet is undefeated.
You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me over here. I'm telling you. That's brutal. Well, you know what? Make sure you let me know what song of someone else's they pulled off Spotify. Get back to me on that one.
Real quick, let them know where they can find you at, Rudy.
Oh, man. You're killing me. I don't know if I can have enough of the end of this one, but you can go to @Reyes on Twitter. Throw me a follow if you like the laugh, because I sure like the memes of the day. You can go to RudeDogShow.com. You can go to RudeDogShow.com, check it out. Make sure you like this, love it, share it, because, well, we love it when you do that kind of thing.
We really do. And you can find me on Twitter at Radio Barry Long, on IG at Barry Long _2. And oh my goodness, man, that is awesome.
I'm surprised he doesn't have Dorito dust on his face or Cheeto dust or something.
All right, guys, stay focused, stay motivated, stay inspired. Remember, you're capable of doing anything. So go out and do it. We'll see y'all tomorrow.